I'm Joseph Sheppard. I'm going to be talking about some of the financial realities to starting a direct primary care practice. To tell you a little bit about myself and to give you a feeling of one instance of what's happened in someone setting up a direct primary care practice from start. I graduated from residency last year and immediately went on to open my own practice. I've been in business a year now. I have a goal of 600 patients and currently have 334 patients. My growth, the first couple months I put on 100 patients, and after that I put on 30 to 35 patients a month. I generally lose about 10 to 12 patients a month. So that's just one example of someone that set up a direct primary care clinic. You've heard a lot today about why people would set up direct primary care and just some reasons why I've set up direct primary care. I can break it down in two categories. I wanted freedom. I wanted freedom from certain things and freedom to do certain things. The most important thing for me was the freedom to be able to help my patients. I wanted to have the time for them that I felt that they deserved. I felt like I should be able to offer them same-day visits, and I thought that I should be able to guarantee them on-time visits, give them that dignity of having a doctor there for their appointment when they're there for their appointment. And so I felt like an independent DPC clinic could help me to do that and help me to really help people. And so we've all come here and we've wondered, is DPC right for us? And one question that I would ask is, are we right for DPC? Direct primary care, the distinguishing aspect of it is the fact that it's direct. And we focused on the direct pay, and that's true. We cut out the middleman in direct primary care. The other direct portion of it is we might as well call this direct patient contact. Do we want direct patient contact? Are we that sort of doctor? Do we want the patients to be able to directly contact us, or do we prefer the protective filter of a staff? Are we willing to walk into the waiting room and shake their hand and bring them back? Do we really like talking to our patients? And some of us are people, and others are not. But if you're going to go into direct primary care, you have to have that direct patient contact, or at least I think you do. And so we have to decide: are we right for direct primary care? If you think that's the case, I have a consent form here for you. Now, medical procedures, we always have to talk about the risks and the benefits, and we're going to hear all sorts of sunny benefits and wonderful things about direct primary care today. I'd like to talk about the risks for it. So the proposed procedure is setting up a direct primary care clinic. The diagnosis is medical system failure, price inflation, and physician suicidality. Now, there are risks to this procedure, and we have to acknowledge it. We don't want this to be a pie-in-the-sky sunny discussion without discussion of that. The risks include, but are not limited to, outright failure, burning bridges with your past employers and hospital systems, extreme personal stress and strain on your family, personal embarrassment in front of your colleagues, personal financial failure, loss of personal savings, including, not limited to, personal retirement and bankruptcy. So if everyone's okay with this, you can go ahead and sign the consent form and continue. I just want to point out that the road to successful DPC, not everybody makes it. This is a startup clinic. It's a startup business, and startups are very, very risky, or else everyone would do them. The road to successful DPC is littered with the carcasses of a lot of doctors who have tried and not succeeded. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about the finances of direct primary care and try to help prevent failure in your case. We're going to talk about financial planning here. You're going into business for yourself, and the number one rule of business is when you run out of money, you're out of business. And I believe the key step to determining if DPC is right for you is financial planning. Business plans are important. Determining your mission and goals are important. Trying to figure out what you're trying to do for your patients is important. But if you run out of money, you're not going to be able to do any of that anymore. And I'd like to erase from your mind all the medical ethic lectures that you've had that tell you that you're not in it for the money. This is all about the money, and it's not necessarily about personal earnings, but it is all about the money. If you run out of money, you're out of business, and you got to call your hospital recruiter again. You got to eat crow and get your job that you hate. It's all about the money because you like to eat. You have to have an income. It's all about the money because this is about your patients. I had a patient that was diagnostically very difficult once, and one of my mentors was telling me that I was worrying too much about the cost of workup. He told me that as a doctor, I shouldn't have to worry about the cost of working up the care, that I should leave that to the accountants. But the truth of it is if we turn a blind eye to our patients' care, we're consenting to their financial destruction. We have to realize that this is about the money, and if we administer our clinics well, we can serve our patients better. We're going to talk about some possible business setups for you today. We're going to use a tool called the cash flow sheet. This is a basic business tool, and we're going to talk through a couple of business proposals. As we talk today, I would like you to have a sinking feeling in your gut of financial failure. We're going to experience that here today, and I want to experience it here so you don't experience that on your own. And then we're going to talk about how to avoid this failure. So here's our cash flow sheet. You can make it up on any spreadsheet. This is on Microsoft Word. You'll notice that there are some values that are blacked out. We don't want to be accused of price fixing. So I have some theoretical prices that are in my spreadsheet here. You can plug in any prices. We're going to do the math with this, with these proposed prices, but you can put in your own values and determine your own results from it. The top portion of the sheet, the top several rows, are dedicated to revenue. Okay? So your top row has the months of the year. We're going to say we start this month in July. And we have our growth. Here I'm showing the growth of 25 patients per month, every month, moving forward. Now you may say to yourself, well, that's kind of mediocre growth, but I would encourage you to consider this as pretty aggressive growth. Establishing 25 patients in a month is difficult, and it's difficult to continue. Retention is an issue, and so if you're truly putting on 25 patients a month, I think you should consider that very successful and very aggressive. We have the revenue that's generated in the bottom row based on my price structure, both for the adults and for the children. And that's that bottom row. And you can see that by the end of a year, by next July, we've accrued, we have $19,000 in revenue in the month of July, which is very exciting. The bottom half of the flow sheet is dedicated to expenses. Now we're going to talk a little bit about expenses. You can see that now this is actually taken very closely from one of my original cash flow sheets when I was trying to figure out my clinic expenses, and I listed out all the expenses that I could see monthly. This expense sheet does not show my startup cost. This is just the monthly expense. So it shows a nurse salary. I want to be a good boss. I'm paying my nurse $20 an hour. I have a front desk person that I also want to be a good boss. I've hired her. I'm paying $12 an hour, and then I have a lot of other expenses, rent, EMR, utilities, etc., etc. You can see for my rent, I'm paying $2,500 a month, which for your region may be a lot or a little. Now, I want a nice clinic. I want a nice part of town. I don't want to scare my patients away. And so I've got it in the high district of town, and I got it right next to the herbal food store, because I'm a little bit fruity, and I thought we could have kind of a spa feeling, and they can be next to all the herbs there. And so I'm paying $2,500 a month in rent and about $1,000 in utilities. Now, for me to get this nice clinic downtown, there was this really nice old historic building that I remodeled. It looks just beautiful. I've got new equipment in there, and people are going to come in there and they're going to think it's nice. And I dropped about $125,000 on startup, which may be more or less than what you planned, but that's what I spent. So the key is that every month I'm going to be losing $10,000 essentially from my clinic and expenses, and that's on top of my startup fees. The bottom portion of the cash flow sheet shows expenses and my income. And so the second row there shows my net income per month, all right? So it's my income minus my expenses, and you can see that over the first several months I'm actually losing money every month. And it's not till month 7 that I have my first month in the black, that in that particular month I have earned more than I've lost. Now, it doesn't mean that the clinic has made money yet. Look at the very bottom row, and that shows the net income to date. And you can see that it's not actually till 12 months that I've been open that the clinic has finally started making money, and I've made more than I've lost. And so by 12 months in business, I will have earned $1,600 for 12 months of work. So here's my concerns for you. You know, we're looking at this peak loss column here at the bottom, how much money you're losing. And by my calculations, with your clinic setup, with this very aggressive growth pattern that you're projecting, that you're going to lose about $30,000 to $35,000 in just your operating expenses. Now, you've noticed that in your expenses, we haven't paid ourselves anything yet. So that's $30,000 to $35,000 if you're just living on your home food storage. If you're starting to pay yourself, and let's say you pay yourself a modest doctor's salary of $10,000 per month, then your peak loss in your operating expenses is $145,000. Okay, we're going to take that with our startup cost of $125,000, and we've lost about $250,000 to $300,000. Let's say we go get a business loan. It's about a 5% loan, and we plan to pay that off over the course of 10 years. Over 10 years, you're going to pay about $345,000, and you're going to have about $2,800 a monthly repayment. Ouch. So you got to think, is this clinic worth that much to you? We'll talk a little bit more about this. Let's say that here's some of my concerns. Number one, the amount of money that you're going into this for a relatively low return situation. And we're going to talk about why it's low return in a minute. I'm also concerned for you because what happens if you can't maintain that very aggressive growth that you projected? Let's say that you're earning 10 or 15 patients netting a month. Maybe you're pulling in 20, but you're losing a few each month. So instead of losing $10,000 the first month, and $9,000, and then $7,000, and then $5,000, you know, the first month you lose $10,000, the second month you lose $10,000, the third month you lose $10,000, the fourth month you lose $9,500, the fifth month you lose $9,000. 18 months into business, you're just now starting to go into the black. You've accrued $200,000 in debt, and you're starting to wonder, I don't know if I really want to do this anymore. And you find yourself up to your ears in debt. I'm very concerned with you because, once again, this is a startup business. The risk of failure is considerable. So what can we do to lower your risk? What are some solutions to the debt that you're incurring? So the first solution you might think is, well, we could increase our revenues. How are you going to do that? You could raise your membership cost. It brings up the question of setting your prices, and that for hours about that. And it brings up the question, what is a fair price? Now, the economic answer, the basic economic answer to what is a fair price is, what will the market bear? So what are people willing to pay you? So whatever they're willing to pay you is a fair price. You got to think a step beyond that, though, too. You got to think, why am I opening this clinic? You got to think, what is your mission? What is your vision? Who are you trying to help, and how are you going to help them? If you try to extract the maximum amount of money from them, you may not be meeting your mission. And I wouldn't be in my clinic. So, well, maybe you can increase your patient panel. So maybe you're going to make up this lost revenue by having a larger panel than you initially intended. But of course, you got to think, the more patients you have, the less attention you give, and once again, perhaps you're going to thwart your vision or your mission. You can say, well, I'm going to grow faster. I'm going to just dump money into marketing. Well, once again, you're increasing your debt, and I've learned from personal experience that just dumping money into a marketing budget doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have growth. Also, we may say, we would all love, you know, when I opened up, I said, oh yeah, if I could just bring on 100 patients a month and I'd be full in 6 months, that'd be great. But that may be an unwanted blessing. You may find that's not something that's manageable. Another solution, which might be a really good solution, is to start with something in hand. So for example, I have a colleague that is preparing to start his DPC clinic, but he's not going to open until January. And at this point, he doesn't have any office space, he doesn't have a nurse salary, he's not losing $10,000 a month. And right now, he's just accruing patients. And it's his intention to open with 100, 200, 300 patients. What would that do for you if you had 100 patients established before you started losing money on your clinic? Of course, the other thing that you can do is you can decrease your expenses. So in the case with this business plan that we've talked about, you know, maybe I don't need a nurse and a front desk person right away. And you think about it, I'm not going to have, you know, so many patients starting off. I'm not going to have even a couple hundred for several months. My nurse is going to be twiddling her thumbs. I'm going to be twiddling my thumbs. Maybe I don't need to have that front desk person. Maybe I might even be able to answer a call if the phone's ringing. I could pick up the phone too. You know what? Maybe I don't need that really nice office downtown in the High District as well. You know, someday I'd really like to be there, but maybe I ought to wait till I have the revenue that would allow me to buy that office space or to rent that office space. And maybe I don't need that big expensive remodel. Last of all, you know, maybe I can get some part-time jobs so that I'm not paying my personal salary out of the clinic. Maybe I could work an ER shift once a week to cover my family in the meantime. So let's go ahead and do that. So here's what we've decided to do. We've decided to move our clinic to a starter location. Just like you don't start off buying a mansion when you first get married. You get a starter house. This is your starter clinic location. Your rent's going to drop from $2,500 to $1,500 monthly. and you decide to drop less on remodel. You know, we'll just have a standard clinic. We don't need that nice spa look right away. We'll get that later. My startup cost, let's say, dropped to $60,000. I'm going to drop the receptionist. I'll try to help the American unemployment rate a little later. And I'm going to go ahead and pull 1 ER shift a week. I've got a local ER that can pay me $150 an hour. I'm going to do a 12-hour shift a week, and I can actually support myself with that. Let's see what happens with our cash projections here. So with our original bad business plan, that's what we're going to call it now, is our peak loss from clinic operations was $35,000 with a very aggressive growth pattern. Now, in our smart business plan, we have a peak clinic operation loss of $5,500. And I'd like to point out, this is with you having 100 patients in hand when you start. You've gone out, you've knocked the doors, you've sent out flyers to the Chamber of Commerce, you've talked to local businesses, you have people signed up before your doors open. Your peak overall loss has gone from $145,000 to $17,500. And instead of having your first productive clinic month at month 18, it's gone to month 7. Your startup costs have dropped from $125,000 to $75,000, and your total loss has dropped from somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000 to $98,000. Now, what this really comes down to is how much you're paying back. Instead of having a loan that you're going to have to pay off that's going to come to a total of about $345,000 in repayment, your total loan value is going to be about $98,000. Your 10-year repayment has dropped from $2,800 a month to $800 a month, which is a huge relief to you. And here's the kicker. By being so frugal, during the loan repayment period, your maximum personal income has gone from $20,000 a month to $25,000 a month. So by being frugal, you've increased your earnings significantly. So the take-home points, think of why you want DPC. What is it that you're trying to achieve for your patients? What is your mission? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to improve patient care? Do you want better quality of work? What is it that you want? Go ahead and create a business plan that reflects those values and stick to your plan. Recognize that as in all your business ventures, there's a lot of risk in starting a DPC. And be frugal with your planning. Remember, it's all about the money. If you are frugal on the front end and if you prepare on the front end, you're going to reap the benefits on the tail end. Thank you.